Sometimes you can be coming for one thing and come away with something totally different. You never really know. That's what's quite fun, is it's so much more unexpected.
In this episode, I'll be talking you through my design process and sourcing. From the moment I set in and knew that a lot of the original features were in here, it became really exciting, and I sort of knew that it had the bones to become an amazing home. I think a really interesting home is made up of lots of different elements, and not everything's going to be perfect. And that kind of, to me, is the charm. You know, it's like some items are what I call a kind of placeholder. It's something that you've got in the interim until you find the perfect piece, and that placeholder may be around for a couple of years. There's quite a lot of placeholders in this house. I think if money's no object, it's kind of boring. You want to have a few challenges. If I was able to buy every single thing I ever wanted, I don't think my taste would be that interesting. I think it's the story behind objects that creates these interesting layers in a home. I feel like on Instagram, trends are very heightened, and probably the people that I follow are some of those people that are starting those trends. So I feel like I'm often coming across these trends at the beginning of their cycle. And I don't think trends are a bad thing, but I think it's about only investing in a trend if you really love it, and not for the sake of it being a trend. I think a really good case in point are the sort of Moroccan Berber rugs, one of which I have in my bedroom. They sort of had a real moment, and you know, it's almost the hangover of that now, and I've been left with it, but I still love it and I still think it works.
I love buying old books on eBay, and you can pick up some amazing books for nothing. All the sort of Terence Conran's books and David Hicks books are all really fun as reference points, and they feel a bit more useful, I guess, than sort of images that are quite often pinned and repinned on Pinterest. This here was a sort of reference point in the sitting room for having the tongue and grooves paneling on the ceiling. There's so many amazing references in here, even just like a door frame reference to colours or upholstery, and I really think having something tangible that you can point to a builder or a decorator, I think you can get amazing ideas.
Again, it's this idea of not being in a hurry to create this perfect home and doing sort of like the research almost. I think it's really enjoyable to go down Pimlico Road to the amazing designers there and to look at these really high-end products that are made to the best finish and see how they're making things and see what kind of price points they're selling things for, and frequent the markets and the antique fairs. But you know, don't expect to come away with things. It's working out what you like and what you're returning back to. Listing and favoriting products that you like on eBay's, Etsy's, Vinteria, Pomono, just to get your eye in. And sometimes I just go through my wish list of items and it reconfirms what you like, I think. Oh my gosh, it's so addictive, and I have so many alarms on my phone, and I'm never sure which auction house, you know, because you want to get in and not miss the bidding. And I still think, you know, eBay is an amazing source, Etsy is amazing. I mean, I can go into antiquing forever. A really good site for accumulation of lots of auction houses is Saleroom. It sort of pulls together all of these smaller auction houses all over England. There's also Antique Atlas, which is a really great site. You need to be looking at these sites, you know, every few weeks and really getting a feel. With furniture, I tend to look at a lot of auction houses. When you look at the quality and craftsmanship of old, particularly upholstered pieces, you can get so much more for your money than buying a kind of low mid-market sofa, for instance. There's so many amazing shapes, and often you can get things for as little as £10, and then it just needs a bit of imagination and a great upholster, of which there's so many people around.
I always get here right at the beginning. I think you've got to be here at 6:30. In the winter, everyone has head torches. Kempton's on twice a month, and I think it's so worth coming right at the beginning because you never know otherwise what you're going to miss out on. Normally, when I buy something off a dealer, I normally check if they've got an Instagram, which most dealers now do, you know, it's kind of their shop front. And then I'll quite often save them on my Instagram, and quite often I'll check if they're coming to Kempton or to another antique fair. And you know, it's just normally they have quite a particular style, so if you're after something very specific, you know who to ask almost. So pretty. And also buying lighting like this is so much more cost effective than getting something that's been mass produced. I think this could be like in like a loo or like in a little corridor. You see, I came here earlier and I should have bought something because it's gone. It would be quite a chic like wreath, I think, on your door that is not perishable. I do think having a list of measurements on your phone and always having a measuring tape is like, you have to, it's a given. Actually, I'm looking for some sort of planter for an indoor plant at the moment, and I quite like the idea of an old basket.
I just love the thrill of getting up early and going to a market and stumbling across something in the dark that you love. And I'm a great believer in these little pieces that bring a home together. Looking at putting art in slightly unexpected places in a home creates excitement. I don't think paintings that you love have to be in the prominent place in your sitting room or by the front door or in really prominent places. It's more you want to have places that are slightly overlooked and that they bring the space together. One of my favourite pieces we own is a very big canvas by a young British artist called Faye Weiwei. And when we moved here, there really wasn't many places we could fit it, apart from at the top of the stairs on a landing, which isn't, I guess, the most common place to put sort of your favourite work of art. But in fact, I walk past that landing and on that landing to my bedroom, you know, many times a day, and it totally brings to life an otherwise blank wall, I guess. And a frame can really bring together a collection of paintings or photos. There's an amazing website where you can get very cheap acrylic frames, which is called eFrame. I like to use their sort of burgundy lacquered frames that are very skinny and they're sort of under £20. But on the other spectrum, I've been working with a few kind of more artisan specialist framers and getting some works of art that I've had mounted on canvas and then having sort of gilded frames looks really beautiful, and I think sometimes putting them in an amazing frame can totally elevate them. So I think it's something that should be considered. Probably a lot of people would say that my style is very feminine, but I always try to play and have this balance between masculine and feminine. It's not too sugary sweet, and I like to toughen it up by mixing in slightly more unexpected colours and textures. Almost for everything that's quite pretty and delicate, having a sort of tougher piece to cement it in a way. I find more and more that I lean towards quite subtle, soft colours on the walls. They more are like the canvas for everything that comes on top. I think perspective is really, really important, and where your eye takes you. So if you're in a room that has very pale walls, it's often really nice for your eye to take you to the corridor that maybe has wallpaper on it. Playing around and adding colours, contrasting colours onto woodwork, internal doors and window frames is a really nice way to just extend the eye out.
Here it's so known for all of its historical colours, and they're so famous for colour matching. So I just think it's a really good starting place to come when you're maybe a little bit stuck with where to go with colour. I find myself quite often sort of veering towards a warm pink and then pairing it with a sort of quite cold dark blue or green, or vice versa. This is a colour combo that I love and have used quite a few times. A sort of red hot red and a pale blue I think works so well together. This is a print that I really want to use, and I'm sort of slightly working backwards because I really want to make this work, and I think a pink works really well with it. It sort of balances it. If you love a colour, I think it's always worth investing in getting a sample pot of the nearest colour either side of it, because it always looks different in your own home.
A fabric resource that I use time and time again is the cloth shop on Portobello. It's so nice physically going into a space where everything is tangible and you can pull things out. And using materials that are more utilitarian, such as a clothing corduroy or wool or denim, they're far more cost effective than buying a traditional interior print. And I'm not saying to do one or the other, but I think it's finding that balance both aesthetically but also financially. I'm thinking this could be quite good as a runner rather than carpet. I think it's a really unique design. I've got wooden floors currently on my stairs, and I think it works quite well. Or this colour, but I think this is maybe the one. And these fabrics over here are all double widths, which are brilliant if you're looking to do curtains because you get so much per metre. These ginghams are great as well. I'd love to use these on almost a table maybe. And these cut work bits of fabric I think are amazing. They work so well, held up to the light as like a blind or almost like a divider curtain in a room. I just think that's so pretty in such a sort of understated way. I haven't used this in my home yet, but I'm forever trying to find a way. One thing that I tend to do a lot in upholstery is adding a piping. On my denim ottoman, I think it probably would have been quite dull if the whole thing had been denim. But by adding a sort of paprika red trim, which sort of ties in with the bookshelf in the sitting room, it suddenly looks finished and considered. You know, that costs no more to add a piping. It's not much more tricky to make, but it's these little details. If you have a choice, I think starting renovations perhaps in the warmer months is always a bit of a plus. You know, you can have your layouts on plans, but actually when you go to a building site and you have no floor and you suddenly see the shell of a room, it's suddenly very intimidating. I've been known to get Tom, my husband, to lie on the floor to mark out the length of where a sofa would go, or I've also used sheets of tarpaulin that were on the building site and sort of laying them out. And you just really can imagine, like, what's the space here? Can you squeeze past it to get to the door? And it becomes a lot more realistic, I think. The other great resource is being able to draw on your phone. If you're away and you're working remotely from your builders, you know, you can be quite thorough on how detailed those drawings are. Some challenges I faced also in this room was the sort of placement of radiators. We've ended up managing to hide one within the giant bookshelf. In a room that has so many windows and it's got sort of almost 3 external walls here, it really needs to be insulated well.
This was a plan where we had tried to place all the radiators and lights. So we'd sort of placed them around and just worked out the lighting plans. And when you're in the planning stages, it's super easy to switch to an 100% renewable electricity supplier like OVO Energy.
Lighting is really hard because you really need to know your floor plan from the offset. You need this sort of functional, practical lighting, but also you want that atmospheric lighting for the evening.
Thank you for watching this series. I hope that you found it interesting and that it's given you the confidence to try some things at home. It can be a daunting process, but I hope that you've learned that taking a few risks is no bad thing.